What's going on, YouTube? And we have a breaking trade news update. If you're subscribed to the channel, you guys should be getting these updates as soon as I post them. We had a lot of trades over the last 24 hours. I just posted my video about the New York Rangers. We'll also be posting this video because this trade happened before, but I feel like this isn't the one that's talked about as much. But it's still pretty important for these two teams, and we're going to discuss that here today. So obviously you see up here, we've got our little trade details. So the Philadelphia Flyers and the Calgary Flames made a little deal the other night. And this trade is kind of an interesting trade for a couple of different reasons. The first reason is Joel Farabee and Morgan Frost are the players going out of Philadelphia. And it's one of those things with these two players. I remember when Morgan Frost got drafted by the Flyers, there was a lot of hype around Morgan Frost. He was going to be the next big center for the Philadelphia Flyers, and he'd be playing probably alongside his top winger in Joel Farabee. And things didn't really pan out that way. And I think Morgan Frost, his development has given some hope for the Calgary Flames, and that's why they were able to they really wanted to acquire him. Because you look at his last couple of years in Philadelphia, it really hasn't been all that impressive. His first season at 20 years old, he picked up only 7 points in 20 games with the Flyers. His 2020-2021 campaign, very short season with the Flyers, only 2 games played that year. And since then, he's become more of a regular on the Philadelphia Flyers. At 22 years old, through 55 games, he put up 16 points. Kind of a disappointing season for him, and really made us wonder, like, is this guy's a bust? And that was at 22 years old. 22 years old, we were already talking about him being a bust. But then the last 2 seasons, he's really rounded into form, and maybe not to the level of a point per game player, but he's still a pretty good hockey player when it's all said and done. Much better than that first kind of semi-full season we saw from him. He had 46 points, 20 goals in his first full 82 game schedule. He played in 81 games, but basically a full 82 game schedule at 23 years old in the 22-23 NHL season. Last season, he put up in 71 games, he put up 41 points. So in less games, he put up a very similar point production. And then in this season, through basically 50 games played, he has 25 points with the Flyers. He already has 11 goals. He's on pace pretty much to get to that 20 goal mark once again. And again, when you're the level that the Flyers were hoping that he would be as a 27th overall pick from the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds in the 2017, we've seen a lot of guys from that draft traded in the first round. Here the last couple of days, we saw Morgan Frost, 2017 first round pick, traded. Erik Brannstrom, he was another guy. I think he was picked 16th overall in that draft. And there's somebody else I'm forgetting. Let me look. It was from the Rangers deal. Sorry guys. Now I just got to bring it up now because I'm talking about it. Erik Brannstrom. Is it Victor Mancini? Maybe not. No, it's Filipino. I apologize for that. So Morgan Frost. Morgan Frost. Now I'm being bothered with text. All right, that's besides the point. 3 guys from the first round of the 2017 NHL draft have been traded in these 2 trades. I'll leave it at that. We'll leave it there. So Morgan Frost, right, didn't develop the way you would hope. But he reminds me a lot of Filipino in the sense that he's probably going to be a decent middle 6 center. So that's kind of what we're talking about here. I think that's the scenario of what we can expect from Morgan Frost here. And Joel Farabee as well. Joel Farabee's kind of an interesting scenario in a different sense because Joel Farabee really popped onto the scene for the Flyers and then kind of dipped after that. So let's take a look at Joel Farabee because he's a different animal in the sense of, like I said, like he came onto the scene and really looked like a guy that was going to be an important piece for the Flyers in the future, and it kind of fell off. So his first full season with the Flyers was it was a short one. It was 52 games, 21 points. So that's pretty solid. But when you go through a full 82 game schedule, you were hoping maybe you would see more from him. And he had a 50 point season last year, which was pretty impressive. But really, going back to his second season with the Flyers. Sorry, I'm all over the place right now. 55 games in his second season with the Flyers. He had 38 points, 20 goals. So you put that for another 30 games played, he would have been pretty close to that 30 to 35 goal mark, which is pretty solid. And Joel Farabee, when he was drafted, he was 14th overall in the 2018 NHL draft. There was a lot of hype around Joel Farabee. So when we're talking about a guy like Farabee, he's projected to be a top 6 player. But things kind of fell off after that. And as we talk about maybe Morgan Frost and his kind of trade stock and value rising a little bit the last 2 years, Joel Farabee's has really gone down. And I hate to say it, but that's a lot of the John Tortorella effect. I don't think Joel Farabee did well with the John Tortorella, in the John Tortorella era. Like, it kind of made sense to the sense of we might have seen an issue there. And that's kind of what's transpired here. So as much as I think those players are really going to help the Calgary Flames, they're going to get more ice time on the Calgary Flames. It's one of those things where you're kind of dealing with reclamation projects, right? And that's kind of the thing here where I think that the Calgary Flames are banking on these guys being good future players that can come in right now and kind of add that steam. But there's a level of risk here, right? Like, there's a reason the Flyers were willing to trade those guys, because in all honesty, like, I think they see something in those guys that maybe they don't want to keep around, and specifically John Tortorella. So keep that in mind. For the Flyers side of things, they bring in Andrei Kuzmenko, Jakob Peltier, a second-round pick, and a seventh-round pick. So Andrei Kuzmenko, his contract expires this season. So that's an important piece of this deal here, because Kuzmenko is a pretty good player. And I think if he gets along well under John Tortorella, this could be a really great addition for the Philadelphia Flyers. He's 28 years old. He's had maybe not the best numbers this season. He has 4 goals in 37 games, 15 points. Kuzmenko is not far removed from a pretty successful season. He's had good seasons in the National Hockey League. Going back to last season, he had 14 points in 29 games with the Calgary Flames. And over a full season in the 23-24 campaign with both teams, he had 50 points basically in 72 games. He had 46 points in 72 games. That's pretty good numbers for Kuzi. Kuzmenko was on pace to put up around 25 goals. Now, maybe that's not like super impressive, but that's pretty solid. And then you compare that against his first season with the Vancouver Canucks. He put up 74 points in 81 games. So this is a guy that has shown flashes of a 40-goal season, not that far removed. But he is a pending UFA this summer. And is he the type of guy that, because it wasn't a sign and trade, like, the Flyers are kind of taking a chance on Kuzmenko re-signing with them this summer. Is he going to re-sign with the Flyers? We don't know. I would assume the Flyers and Danny Briere are going to do their level-headed best to keep him around. But he's making $5.5 million right now. Is he going to be looking at a similar contract? Or are the Flyers going to say, listen, your numbers haven't been that great since that first season. You're probably going to take either $5 million or stay at that 5.5. I could see a situation where maybe, unfortunately, if he stays with the Flyers, he might be making $6 million for a 3-year deal, because the Flyers don't really have a ton of leverage here. And you might be looking at the salary cap kind of increasing over the next couple years, and he might sign a prove-it deal. Like, maybe it ends up being a 3-year deal. Maybe it ends up being a 1 or 2 year prove-it deal where he's making $6 million. The salary cap's going to rise, but he wants to maybe get a bigger ticket before he cashes out of the casino, right? Because if let's say he signs, let's go in the middle. Let's say he doesn't sign another 1-year deal or a 3-year deal. A 2-year deal, $6 million per season. Well, he'll be 28 at that point. No, no, he'll be 30 at that point. So at 30 years old, he could cash in on a 5-6 year deal maybe. But he has to do well with the team he's going to sign with. And does he see that with the Flyers this summer? Maybe, maybe not. A second and a seventh round pick also coming in this deal for the Flyers. I think that's pretty solid because, again, because Kuzmenko's a little older, he's a UFA. There's a little bit of a risk bringing in a guy like Kuzmenko. I think he's going to help out Matvei Michkov because of the fact the Russian connection there. It makes a lot of sense. I like that here for the Philadelphia Flyers, and maybe they're using that as kind of the springboard to get Kuzmenko to re-sign. Hey, listen, you're going to be playing with this Russian superstar, Andrei Kuzmenko, right? Maybe you want to stick around and see this thing out. That, I'm sure, is part of what Danny Briere was thinking in that deal. Now let's get to probably the most interesting part of this trade, in my opinion, and that is Jakob Pelletier. Now, Jakob Pelletier is not that far removed from being a highly coveted player for the Calgary Flames. So he was the 26th overall pick in the 2019 NHL draft. He has 11 points this season in 24 games, 61 career games in the league, 20 points in that span. He's only got 8 goals in the National Hockey League, almost over a full year span of NHL hockey. You put that together over now his third NHL season. But what's interesting about Jakob Pelletier is that potential. Is when he was drafted, he was seen as a 24th overall pick. And then last year, there was a huge amount of expectation about what Jakob Pelletier could be. He did really well in the World Juniors, and he kind of seemed like a guy like, oh shit, like this guy might be a steal for the Calgary Flames. And then now we're kind of watching his progression, and it's not really, it's very oddly similar, even though he's not a center like Morgan Frost, but as a winger, oddly similar to Morgan Frost. So you're kind of trading Pelletier and Frost kind of up against each other. Farabee and Kuzmenko kind of offsetting-ish. And then the second and the seventh round pick, I like what Philly did in this deal. And they've got a lot of draft picks in the first 2 rounds of this year's draft, which is very important for them. So, to kind of wrap up the contracts in this deal, Kuzmenko and Pelletier, their contracts expire this offseason. So, we're going to find out very quickly. Like, if they gel with Tortorella, I think they're going to try and sign extensions with those guys. Frost and Farabee. Frost, his contract expires this summer. He's making $2.1 million this season. Joel Farabee, I think Calgary likes Farabee for a couple of reasons. He's making $5 million till 2028, so they have a couple years there. They're not worried about his... They have a legitimate winger that can score in the lineup for the next couple of years. And during a rebuild, having some kind of stability there is important. What makes this trade interesting for the Flames is they're kind of a team that's still a tweener. And I think as much as they're coming out of that rebuild, like, I'm kind of interested they were willing to trade their second round pick here. I don't know if they were really ready to do that. And they traded Jakob Pelletier. Maybe they're looking at Pelletier here as he's kind of a descending value asset, and we're going to try and trade him before his value goes away. Maybe that's what they were looking to do. And for the Flyers, they see this as a guy as there is something there, and we're going to try and tap that potential out of him, right? So with that all said, I feel like I've been kind of going on here. This is an interesting trade for a lot of different reasons because there's just a lot of different pieces moving around that, like, yeah, this guy was seen as a lot of potential not that far long ago, and now we don't know what he is. So there's just a lot of reclamation projects being thrown back and forth. Maybe the change of scenery from all of these players ends up working out, but the Flyers were able to get the seventh round pick. They were able to get the second round pick, which I don't know how they were able to swing Jakob Pelletier and the second round pick, right? Like, that's the part that I'm a little bit interested in. I do think as of today, the Flyers won this trade for a couple reasons. I like Jakob Pelletier still. I think the change of scenery is going to be great for him. Andrei Kuzmenko, in all honesty, I think is the best player in this trade, and they got the second round pick. It's very interesting to see how this deal is going to work out, though, with Tortorella, because, like I said, it's kind of going to be, they're going to throw Kuzmenko and Pelletier onto the lava rock and see how they handle John Tortorella, right? So we're going to find that out pretty quickly, whether they're going to be Flyers for a couple of years or for a couple of months. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'm not wearing the Flyers hat because I think they won the trade, but I'm going to be honest, I do think they won this trade today. So let me know what you guys think down below. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys again next time.